So you've probably heard it before or read it somewhere, but cold outreach is dead. Nobody responds anymore. The algorithm killed it. And if your response rates have dropped, you might believe that. And here's what I want to challenge for today. Cold outreach isn't dead, but something did change. And if you haven't figured out what that thing is, you're going to keep running more volume into the same silence. My name is Yarek. I run JPM Media. We've been doing this for about 6 years, working exclusively with B2B service businesses, coaches, consultants, and professional service firms. We've helped clients build client acquisition systems that take them from their very first clients all the way past $3 million in annual revenue. And I didn't build JPM Media just theorizing about this. I built it using the systems that we teach. I have made every mistake I'm about to describe, including this one. So when I say I know what's actually breaking down in cold outreach, it's because I've diagnosed it across dozens of businesses and I've lived it myself. Here is what nobody has ever told you. Let's start with the narrative that most people are running with. Cold outreach stopped working, so the channel must be broken. They switch channels, or they buy a new tool, or they start blasting more volume and hoping that something sticks. The channel isn't the problem. Cold email still works, right? LinkedIn and DMs still work. Cold calling still works. We see it every single week in the acquisition systems that we run for clients. The people who are booking calls through cold outreach right now aren't using a magic tool or a secret formula. The difference is what they're saying and who they're saying it to. It's not a script difference, right? So if the channel isn't broken, what is? And here's what's actually shifted. 5, 6-ish years ago, most cold outreach tools were competitive advantages, right? Apollo, Lemlist, automated sequencing. Most businesses weren't using them. The novelty alone got responses. So today, everyone has the same tools. The volume scaled exponentially. Your prospect's inbox went from receiving 10 cold emails a week to 50, and the signal to noise ratio just collapsed. And when noise overwhelms signal, people don't evaluate every message anymore. They filter it, right? If I showed you my LinkedIn right now, I probably have 40 messages from just this morning sitting there, and you don't even want to see my email, right? The thing is that humans are incredible at learning to filter, right? Your prospects have now seen thousands of cold messages. They've pattern matched in milliseconds, right? You're going to click on another video and see someone just say, you got to stand out in the first line. Fantastic. But that signal to noise ratio collapsed. And when noise overwhelms signal, people don't evaluate every message anymore. They filter it. And I'll get into why this is different, because it's not what you're saying, it's how you're saying it. And I know you're probably confused on how that's going to work, but I'll get into that slowly. So the thing is, the second that your email reads like a cold email, the structure, the opener, the format, it's gone. Not because they're not interested in the outcome you're offering, but because it looks and sounds exactly like everything else. The channel didn't die. The tolerance for irrelevance did. So what's the one thing that changed that most people haven't adjusted to, right? It's not the tool. It's not even the template. Your message sounds like everyone else's, and the reason it sounds like everyone else's is because you haven't done the work that would make it not sound like everyone else's, right? Think about your last cold message sent. Did it name a specific problem that your prospect is dealing with right now? Not a category of problem either, right? A specific one. Did it give a clear reason why the message was relevant to them specifically, not just their job title, right? Did it make it obvious in the first line that you actually know something about their situation? If the answer is no, you're in the same pool as everyone else. And in that pool, you compete based on luck. So here's the insight that realistically changes everything. The problem isn't the outreach. The problem is what's upstream of the outreach or up the funnel, right? Your positioning. If you don't have a razor sharp view of who you serve, what specific problem you solve, and what makes you the right choice for them, you cannot write a compelling cold message. You default to generic because generic is all you have, right? The outreach is the delivery mechanism. The positioning is the message, and you can't send a message you haven't written yet, right? This is the problem I see across every business that hits a wall with cold outreach, right? The tactics are fine. The positioning is weak, right? And weak positioning means generic messages downstream, no matter how good your tool is, right? And think of cold outreach as an amplifier. If your positioning is strong, specific ICP, specific problem, specific differentiator, outreach amplifies a clear signal. The right people hear it and then recognize themselves in it and then respond. But if your positioning is weak, outreach just amplifies the noise, right? More volume, more ignoring, more frustration, and the natural response is just to send more, try a new tool, switch templates, just turn the amplifier up, right? That's why fixing the outreach at a tactical level doesn't work. The leak is upstream. Fix the positioning, fix the message, fix the response rate, right? And the thing is, it takes more work to do that. It takes someone who understands how to send that outreach. So this is the foundation of every acquisition system that we build at JPM and BTF, right? before we touch a sequence, a cadence, or send a single message, we fix what the message actually is and who it's actually for, because everything downstream depends on that exactly. Real quick, if you're watching this and want this kind of thinking applied directly to your business, that is exactly what my team and I do. We work with B2B service businesses, coaches, consultants, and professional service firms to diagnose and build out their client acquisition systems. Link is in the description to book a call with me or someone on my team. Now let's get back into the video. So how do you actually fix it? 4 steps in order. Step 1, stop sending to a broad list and start sending to a sharp one. Not founders of B2B companies, right? That's a category. I want you to get something like founders of B2B consulting firms, down to 2 to 10 employees who recently hired their first salesperson and are struggling to transition their own sales process to someone else. You have the tools. I'm sure if you're doing cold email or cold messages, you can figure out how to do that with something like Clay, right? That specificity changes everything, because now your message can speak directly to their exact situation. You might get a list of 10,000 down to 500, but that 500 list is something you can be way more personalized with. Send a voice note, send something a little bit more interesting, right? That is where your message can speak directly to their situation, right? You're not guessing at a pain and hoping they respond. You know the pain, right? And if that's something that you help solve, you know it better than they probably do, right? And when someone reads a message that describes their situation accurately, it doesn't feel like cold outreach. It feels like someone did their homework, literally. So before we write a single line of outreach for a client, we spend time here first. Who exactly are we reaching? What is happening in their world right now? The sharper the answer, the better everything that flows. Step 2 is lead with their problem, not your solution, right? Most cold messages open with "I help," type of business, achieve result. That's your solution, right? But your prospect is living inside their problem. They don't care about you. They don't know who you are. And they don't care about your solution yet, because they need to feel that the need is met first, and they need to have a bit of trust, right? So flip it. Open with something that shows you understand their situation. Most specific ICP I talk to are running into a specific problem right now, especially at the relevant stage or context that they're in, right? That is still not perfect, right? Because it's opening up with a fact, right? So you want to tailor that message to be slightly sharper to what you're actually offering, right? It's not a pitch, it's recognition, and recognition earns attention in a way that any pitch first opener never will. So step 3 is make relevance impossible to miss the very first time. The goal of line 1 isn't to sell. The goal is to earn line 2. And the only way to earn line 2 is to make them feel immediately, this person knows something about my situation. That's literally it, right? So that means no generic openers, no "I came across your profile" BS, right? A specific, accurate observation about their business, their market, or their situation. Something only someone who actually understands their world would say. So this is where the positioning work pays off directly, right? When you know your ICP directly, their specific problem, their specific context, you can write this line naturally, right? When you don't, you can't fake it. Generic is always visible. So step 4, and the biggest mistake in cold outreach, is asking for way too much too soon, right? A 30-minute call, a demo, a proposal, that's commitment before trust, and you haven't earned it yet. So instead, ask a single yes or no question, right? Ask if the problem you described resonates. Ask if it would be worth a 5-minute conversation, right? And that's definitely not even the first message. Save it a bit, have a conversation, actually figure out who that person is, right? Something that they can say yes or no to in 3 seconds, right? The goal of cold outreach at the end of the day is to close a deal, but not in the conversation itself, right? It's to start a conversation. So start that conversation. Don't pitch directly and ask for a call. Have a conversation with someone, and if it's interesting enough, you will have that conversation and you will book that call. But the thing is, no one wants to put in that effort anymore. Put in that effort and you will stand out. And then I'll show you guys some results in the end of the video of how we actually do this in a very specific way. So everything you send should be designed around that goal, not just skipping to the end, right? So here's how I want you to think about this moving forward. Cold outreach isn't a volume game anymore, and it never really was. The volume just masked the problem for a while. It's a relevance game. And if relevance isn't something you engineer at the template level, it comes from upstream, right? From knowing specifically who you're talking to, what they're actually dealing with, and why you're the right person to help them do it, right? The businesses we work with at JPM Media see that cold outreach consistently work. And that's not even our main focus, right? We just know how to pull that information from their offers, from their clients, and find more people like that in a specific and targeted way, right? It's not that we're doing or reinventing the wheel with cold outreach. It's just understanding the systems of how it works, because it's not that we found a better tool or a better subject line, right? It's because we built the full system around it, right? Sharp positioning, sharp targeting, messaging that actually lands, and the infrastructure behind it to follow through. Outreach is one layer. What sits behind it is what turns a response into a client. So when you fix the positioning, cold outreach stops feeling cold, right? So the way that we do it at JPM Media is obviously we run ads and we do funnel management. That is our main offering. But there's obviously aspects where some people don't necessarily fit into the budget requirements to work with us. So we have a system built around cold outreach that generates conversations so that people can get their first 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 10 deals and then start thinking about scaling once that offer is proven, once they actually have something to move and work around. So in order to do that, the cheapest and most cost-effective way is to use cold outreach, but not spend $300 on tools a month on just to send it, but actually take the time to develop an understanding of who you're reaching out to, why you're reaching out to them, and how that conversation should play out in a perfect world. Because let's be honest, there's so many different ways that you can go about this, but it's finding the specific solution specifically for your company, for your business, for your offer, and for your team, right? There are so many different aspects that you can go down, whether it's voice notes, whether it's cold email, whether it's DMs on Instagram, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Twitter or X nowadays, right? So many different avenues, but you need to pick one that actually resonates with who your audience is. And not only that, figure out the best way to actually send the message to them. We have done this across multiple different channels, multiple different platforms, in multiple different industries for our clients. And that is where this all comes down to. So if this landed for you, subscribe. There is a lot more of where this is coming from. And relevant messages are what is going to be the most helpful in your business. So drop a comment with what's breaking down in your outreach right now. If you want us to actually break down what's happening inside of your business and apply this expertise to your company, click the link below in the description and you'll find a call link. Book a call with me or my team and we'd be happy to walk you through it. We'll look at your system, tell you what's off, and show you how to fix it. So when you fix the positioning, cold outreach stops feeling cold. It feels relevant. And as always, leave a comment and we'll see you in the next one.